Have you ever wondered what made Buffy the Vampire Slayer so popular? A show where female empowerment is everything in an era where such a thing was not very common? How did a TV show about a 16-year-old high school girl entertain people of all genders and ages? What did it do to keep the attention of adults, and most importantly, adult males, which you wouldn't expect to be interested in such a show? This show was a salad of something for everyone. You like romance? Check. You like comedy? Check. You like people fighting monsters and fighting with cool weapons and doing acrobatics? Also check. Between the wittiness of the show...
You might have let me in on your plan while you throttle me.
Oh, poor Watcher. Did your life pass before your eyes? Cup of tea, almost got shagged, cup of tea.
The progressiveness of lesbian and gay inclusion, the empowerment of women on the show, and the absolutely badass fighting scenes and characters, there was enough for everyone to enjoy. But what really glued it all together was the special effects, both with special effects makeup, props, and a mixture of CGI and 2D hand-drawn animation. In this video, we're going to cover the special effects of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, focusing mainly on my favorite episode, Once More with Feeling, which is said to have revolutionized television and was the inspiration for many other musical episodes in future TV shows. Buffy, of course, wasn't the first to have a musical episode, but it certainly was the most successful at it, which in turn cascaded in shows like Grey's Anatomy, Scrubs, Fringe, How I Met Your Mother, and many other shows to make a musical episode of their own. We can't look at one episode without looking at all the others. As in Buffy, special effects are everything. They're in every episode from beginning to end. Unfortunately, Buffy did not get the love that it deserved, and the only footage that can be found regarding special effects and makeup is only from the initial seasons. They never really gave us any update after that, despite technology having improved over time and it being visible in the TV show. With this in mind, we will look at the special effects retrospectively, referencing that which was explained by the production in the earlier seasons and the behind-the-scenes footage of Once More with Feeling. Vampires and monsters makeup. The episode starts off already showing the special effects that are iconic for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The first scene is set in Sunnydale Cemetery, which is sometimes shot either in Angelus Rosedale Cemetery or at the makeshift cemetery that was set up in the parking lot of the show's studios in Santa Monica. Here we see both vampires and demons and the death of a vampire. Vampire and monster makeups in Buffy are done in latex. The latest information we have is from makeup supervisor Todd McIntosh and John Vulich from the group that designed the monsters and suits of the show, Optic Nerve, creator of special effects. In the Season 2 episode Beauty and the Beasts, where they explain how vampire and monster makeups are done in the show. For this, a light cast is made of the actor's face, then a sculpt is done on top of this light cast to achieve the look that they want. Once this is done, they make a negative cast or mold of this and later add foam latex to it, which is then clamped tight against the two molds and put in the oven. This allows for latex prosthetic to come out detailed and also as thin as possible, which aids both the makeup artists in applying the prosthetics and the actor to move their face in it. The actor's face is then cleaned, glue is applied, the prosthetic is then added, and its edges are feathered into the skin. To get realistic color on the vampire's prosthetics, a base of blood red is applied first, and then the skin color second, so that the red undertone gives the illusion of blood circulation like the actor's real skin. After adding the skin color, they then airbrush the highlights and darker parts of the prosthetic. Todd McIntosh talked about how he had to put dark colors around the eyes, as without them he noticed they did not look as monstrous as they should have. Another vampire we see often in this episode is one of the main characters, Spike. When his prosthetic was created, the actor James Marsters told Todd that he had a scar over his eyebrow and that he was going to have to paint over it. But Todd incorporated his scar into Spike's character.
And I'm making him up, and he says to me, "Oh, I've got a little bit of a scar there if you want to just fill in the eyebrow." I said, no. I got the razor out and I shaved his eyebrow out of that area and we painted the scar in and made it part of the character.
The demon prosthetics are made the same way, except they're a bit more elaborate, as there is supposed to be more deformation, as they are not as close to humans as vampires are. In order to achieve this, they make the prosthetics in two halves, the front and the back of the face and the head. Vampire death. For the vampire deaths, they use a mix of 3D animation and compositing. As explained in Season 3's feature episode, Special Effects, by visual effects supervisor Loni Peristera, they make a 3D skeleton, animate the skeleton to mimic the actor's movements and their falling, composite the actor's true body to the 3D as close as possible, and use moving light to aid the effect. Morphing and phasing. The next special effect we see is a combustion of a man. This is done with a mix of compositing the actor, a fire effect, and finally a dummy on fire that falls onto the floor. The compositing in Buffy is one of the most important and iconic methods used on the show. Just as they fade the actor into the dummy, they do this on things much more difficult to do. A great example is the morphing effect from human to vampire that Spikes goes through in this episode. As Lonnie Peristeri explains, they worked on seamless phasing between two identical scenes with small differences, in this case the vamp makeup. This was also masterfully used to make Willow's doppelganger in the Doppelgangland episode, for example. In this episode, you also see it for the main demon of this episode, during one of his songs. The Minions. The Minions were actually done by a different company called Harlow Effect. The heads were made of fiberglass with animatronics inside of them. Sweet the Demon. Just like other monster prosthetics, Sweet's makeup was done in two halves. The back of the head and the neck area was one, and the face was the second. This makeup was some of the hardest on the show, as not only the actor needed to be able to speak in it, but unlike other full-face prosthetic wearers on the show, he also needed to be able to be expressive, as he was the star of the musical episode. Magic and other effects. Lastly, of course, it's not Buffy without magic and weapons. In this episode, we see quite a few examples of this with lighting effects composited over the footage and the knives that Giles throws. The knives move in slow motion and are done in CGI, while the ones that the actor throws are made of rubber. And that's everything, folks. What do you think of the methods? A lot of people, including the people who worked on Buffy, say that they revolutionized TV because of these techniques. Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you like Buffy or do you dislike it? Or did you never watch it? Thanks ever so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
Now I gotta run, see you home. Eat